Well, good evening, council members, mayor. Good to see you again. I guess one of these days I'm going to have to show up for a council meeting that's not a marathon. Apparently, the only time I get to speak with you all is at the end of the day. What's being passed around to you is part of the analysis that an independent group of citizens has been doing with regards to the HERO petition validation effort. It's been a crowdsourcing effort. This particular analysis that you're being handed is something that I did by going page by page through the entire box D, and based on the very simple criteria of whether or not it was valid and whether or not the circulator had signed it, was it stamped, and that sort of thing. I was able to very basically invalidate 52% of the pages in that box, which represented more than 2,339 of the votes that were supposedly valid as turned in by the Pastors' Council. So that's there for your reference, and I'll leave it up to my next speaker to fill you in on the rest of the details.
Mr. Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. I'll say I'm on vacation because the opposition has threatened to come after my job.
It's actually after city hours at this point.
Well, I work until 6. I work long hours. I'm actually here for Mr. Russell. What we're here to talk about is we have found some issues in the petitions. I personally have spent 85 hours reviewing every single petition that was submitted. Probably isn't another person on this planet who's looked at these petitions more than I have. And basically what we've found is that this thing is razor thin. What we've been able to identify is that there are it appears there are fatal flaws with many of the petitions that will knock out about 10,500 signatures, 10,491. There are additional criteria that were mentioned by City Attorney Feldman at the committee hearing last Friday that would appear to eliminate another 7,273 signatures. In total, the petitioners are claiming 35,472 valid signatures. Their numbers, not mine.
Mr. Noel, Councilmember Christie.
So I haven't read the handout. So 35,000 were sent in, disqualified 10, and possible another 14. Is that what you're saying? So there wouldn't be 17,000? Is that what you're saying?
Sir, what we're looking at is 17,708 signatures, right, which is 439 over the minimum threshold, and that's before we actually start looking at individual signers on valid pages. And we did a random sampling statistical analysis with a margin of error of 2.4%. That projects that once we do that, we may have as many as 5,000 additional signatures that are invalidated.
Which would be the net of valid signatures would be how many, in your opinion?
We're looking at probably somewhere in the 12 to 15,000, depending on if the projection holds. And even though our margin of error on our random sampling is 2.4%, the boxes vary. Some boxes are very clean, some are very, very messy.
Council members, briefly, it is the city secretary's responsibility in consultation with the legal department to make sure that there is a formal count. But any group may request a copy of the signatures and do an independent analysis. As Mr. Feldman said when he spoke to council, I believe last week, there are a number of potential flaws in these petitions, and if there's a flaw on an entire page, all of those signatures are invalidated. But what I would caution council members is that if Ms. Russell completes her count and the city attorney, she's counting signatures, and then the city attorney is looking at these other flaws, if we say that there are enough signatures, I'm assuming we get sued by groups like Mr. Freeman's who have done their own count and disagree. And if we say that there's not enough signatures, I'm assuming we can get sued by those who pass the petitions. So I would urge us all to be cautious about engaging in a public comment at this point. Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm officially unaffiliated with any particular group. We're the land of misfit toys.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.